Greetings, sending y'all some warm, positive vibrations. This is Body-Culinary. And today I'm just going to share what I'm going to prep for goodies. So happy Kwanzaa in advance. Kwanzaa starts on the 26th, the day after Christmas here in Central America. A lot of folks also celebrate Boxing Day, but we're gearing up for Kwanzaa. So happy holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate. I don't like to wait for holidays before I acknowledge mothers, fathers, parents, children, loved ones. You know, I got to do it every day. I can't wait for the holidays. So I like to prepare in the ways of the mothers. At least that's how I coined it, the ways of the mothers and the grandmothers. So that means whatever's in the garden, whatever's on the trees, whatever's in season, that's what we're going to be eating. And by the way, interestingly enough, my sister and I were taking a walk from the garden yesterday, and we see mango blossoms on the trees already, which is crazy. So mangoes is like our favorite food. And so we just start riding our bikes and watching all the trees in the neighborhood to see greetings. We're listening to the trees, right, in the neighborhood, to see when the mango is going to be ready. So usually it's ready right around our birthday. So what is available right now is plantain. So usually we eat them very, very ripe. But I'm always experimenting. I'm inside the kitchen. This has been a journey of like going on 3 decades. And my focus is on peaceful consumption. You don't really need the labels. We don't need one more thing to divide us. I prefer everything whole, fresh, and living. But there are different things that I will be very creative with in order to share with my friends, my family, my son, and so on, right? Because fruits and vegetables can be a great opportunity to bring us together. So these I got from one farmer. These are not totally right, but there are some things that I can do with these. And I'm not going to be using a stove. I'm not going to be cooking anything with a stove. You can, if you like, you have options on what you can do. And I think that's very important for people to feel like they have options when it comes to eating plant-based, right? And feeling satiated, right? So having males in my family and big eaters, being a big eater myself, if I did not enjoy the food, there's no way I'll be able to maintain the way that I eat. And eating very healthfully is very important because I have a rampant history in my family of morbid obesity, diabetes, the comorbidities or the diseases that run in packs with them. So diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure. They like to hang out in a crew. So those will be waiting for me. And then also my thyroid is challenged. So it's very easy for me to gain weight or adipose tissue, right? Make a distinction between that and muscle weight. And I also like to eat. Coming from a Caribbean and also a Southern, Afro folks in the Americas, that Southern flavor palette. So I make no butter beans about I like to eat. So this is very important. It's also very important to me as someone that's been in the fitness field for many years. I knew even when I used to compete, I don't want to diet, right? I don't want to have to think several times about my food. So fortunately, I've taken a lot off the table. So now I can just play with the food for myself and also play with different things to share with my family. So we have plantain, right? And these are very inexpensive, right? And I always talk about Grandma Lou. Always talk about my godparents and my Grandma Lou. Grandma Lou in particular, she wasn't vegan or vegetarian, though she is my inspiration for the way that I eat, because all of those traditional foods is what helped me really clear a really hot case of adult acne and lots of scarring. And it's also very sustainable and it's easy to manage your spending plan, right? When you're eating whole, fresh, unprocessed foods. So plantain, you can get 2, 3, sometimes even 4 for $1, especially if you buy in bulk. I like to eat them very, very ripe, right? So we got plenty of those, and I get great deals on those from farmers because I like to befriend the farmers, right? I think farmers are just as important as the president. So this some people call this a patty pan squash. There's so many different types of squash. Many are used to the long yellow squash, or some people call it summer squash. And then there's a green zucchini squash, right? And there's some people call this patty pan squash, but here they'll just say squash. Greetings. So this, I'm going to see, when I have these fresh ingredients, I'm thinking, I don't use a recipe book, right? And when I've collected over the past I would have to say thousands of dollars in books, right? I'm big on education. A lot of times I was looking at the pictures or for inspiration, but I do recognize that many people feel like they don't know what to do with the fresh whole ingredients. So what I go by is I think of my great-grandmothers, my two great-grandmothers in their 90s, and my grandma Lou was in her 90s, right? My grandma, unfortunately, ate all the diet soda and some of the other junk food, passed in her 60s. But these women, they took one ingredient and they did many, many things with it. So that is the principle. That is a ground principle of body culinary, the ways of the mothers and the grandmothers. We take one thing and we do many things with it. So most of the foods I have, I can juice them. I can make them into slaws. I can make nice creams. I can make vegetable chips, right? So think of how much money I'm saving, especially if you're buying in bulk. If you have a copy, if you downloaded a copy of Whole Living Foods in the Hood, I throw that. I show you several different potential budgets, right? All from what I was actually eating. From when I've gone to the wholesaler and bought food by the case, which, by the way, will cut down on you having to run out and shop. Or you can see, like, if you're a young person just managing your funds, leaving your mom's house, you can see different ideas of budgets from $5, $25, all the way up to $200. And I give you ideas of sample budgets. And when you have all this fresh food, what are you going to do with all this food, right? It's a lot of food, so you got to be creative. Now you got to make, the food. But the beautiful thing is, you know exactly what's in your food. And just like I sat down by my grandmother, that's how I learned a lot. Kind of just want to transmute that energy and reactivate the ways of the mothers. Almost like if you're coming into my kitchen and sitting down at the table with me, learning how to prepare food from the fresh ingredients. So I plan on doing several things with this. My preference is I appreciate the living water in the foods. Now, for a long time, I didn't use a dryer or a dehydrator, but I will use it sometimes in experimentation and preparing foods for other folks. And it can be a transition for many people when they really like to just chew. They have an oral fixation and just chew, right? Food can be very sensual. I've also made a solar dryer with pieces, the broiler that you get out of the bottom of the oven. So I got some those at a thrift store. And I put together some bricks and some screens so flies won't get on it. And I've also made a solar dryer for when it's really, really hot and dried actually some delicious tomatoes out in the sun. And actually, I can taste the difference. Right, my palate is very sensitive between something dried in the this air dryer. Of course, at a cooler temperature, we don't want to cook out or dry out all the. Well, we'll evaporate the water, but we don't want to lose all of the nutrition in the food. Right? But I will use these different things and know that you do not need this. So my basis is I don't need this at all, right? And my tongue has gotten used to the water in foods. And as you go along in your journey with food, you'll find your palate will change from year to year, believe it or not. There are things that I enjoy now that I used to hate, right? So it's a journey, and your body is going to start talking to you. The food is definitely going to start talking to you and communicating with you. Just like right now, if you have a lot of acne or additional adipose tissue or fatty tissue, your body's telling you a story, right? It has a signature. It's telling you exactly it's showing everything that you've been eating and doing for the last year and couple of years. It is what it is. None of us can escape, right? When I was upset about my acne, the reality is, even though I was eating healthily for years, all the stuff I had put in prior, it's got to come out somewhere. So as one of my mentors used to tell me when I used to be really upset about eating and juicing, eating healthfully and juicing, and my skin was still looking like the sidewalk, she was like, well, better out than in, because you don't want all of those toxic things in your colon and all that impacted stuff from years to turn into a growth or a tumor or cyst. So be grateful that that stuff is coming out through your pores. So I wasn't happy about it, but she did have a point. So I'm going to be preparing this. There's many different types of onions. So I can't get my hands on Vidalia onions where I'm at. So this is the next best thing. I will use the quote unquote Spanish onion, the one with the yellow skin. If I find it, I find this one isn't as pungent or sharp. So it's a little sweeter. And then also I like the red onions, right? So again, I prefer all of these living, whole living, what people call raw, but I like to call them living, right? And there are actually some really great distinctions with living foods. And then I just cut up a whole bunch of bananas. here that are very ripe. It is very, very hot where I am. So bananas are very, very inexpensive. I could probably get like, let's say I can get maybe 15 bananas for $1, if not a little bit more. So I can do so much. I can do so much with a banana. So in the ways of the mothers or the grandmothers, the signature, one of the signatures here is we take one ingredient and we do different things. If I press coconut cream, that can go on my skin. Yes, my sister and I, we put it on our skin. I use it in all different types of dishes. I can make glossies. I can make milk. So you get where I'm going here. This is whole, fresh, unprocessed food. If anything, you can process it yourself and give room for yourself to grow, because not everything you're going to like when you're changing your food, right? Just like children are very picky about textures, if it's slimy or crunchy, or sometimes your children may like green apples and then all of a sudden they only like red apples, right? So it's very, very personal, but there's more than enough variety in nature. So those are the things that I'm going to be working with. Also, I've got lots of garlic. So I do go through phases with food. So right now I'm on a garlic kick. So I say like it keeps the vampires away. So I'm doing lots of things with garlic. I'll press it. But right now I'm using the whole bowl. And I'm going to marinate this with pimento, or some people call it allspice, and tomatoes. And I'm going to make sun-dried garlic and tomatoes with pimento. Ooh, those are delicious. You can do those oil-free for those folks that are really looking to cut back on some of those oil calories. So technically, oil is not really a whole food. I know we think of it as a health food, but ideally we want the whole food. So the coconut, the avocado with all of the water and the fiber intact. So those are going to be things that are on the menu. I have some things in the dryer now, so I will prepare some living, and then I'm going to prepare some things that are dried with spices to share with some of my sister friends. And also, my sister just brought a nice, beautiful head of cauliflower from a farmer. So this is a staple here. So you know how many things you can do with a cauliflower, right? And so I see quite often, and I remember back in the days when I did a lot of processed foods as a vegetarian. Sometimes, well, quite often, many of us are cooking all of the food and the medicine out of it, right? And you smell those delicious smells. A lot of times, the water is all going out of it, that healing water. Right, and also a lot of the nutrients are going up in smoke. So I'm not looking to be a party pooper. We just want to make some distinctions and offer some ideas, right, to stimulate you to think about different ways you can prepare your food. But ideally, we want the living water. And so many of us are not used to crunching the cauliflower, or may not know some other ways to prepare it without drowning it in oil and drowning it in loads of heavy nuts, which also can, even though it's good fat, can wind up being just as much, if not more fat than the standard American diet. So my son would say quite often, Mommy, I think people think they're not understanding the way that you eat, because people may be just thinking I'm eating an apple. But fortunately, food is almost like it's very sensual, and it's like art. So I love to take one ingredient and do so many different things with it. And that applies to every piece of produce that I will bring in here. So you can let me know in the comments, how many different things can you come up with that you can make with these items? I think I'm going to share some of the pics on Body-Culinary on the Instagram page. So I have cauliflower. We have patipan, or patty pan squash. We have plantain or plantanos. We have, these are not fully green. I don't eat, the green is too starchy, but some people may be in a space where that's still very comforting for them. I think they'll be still much better than bread. But I like to eat them ripe. So this is not fully ripe, but there's still something I can do with it. And this is very ripe. This is how I prefer them. So many people toss this. And actually, plantains have a lot of enzymes that are good for the system. And then I'm going to be using lots of of garlic and also onions, right? So I've already cut up some of the plantains. I've cut up a lot of bananas also. And I go through phases. I used to eat a lot of banana and ice cream, and then sometimes, interesting, I don't have a taste for sweets. But we will use these inside milks and ice creams and so on, that we use also with the plant milk bag. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'd love to know what you are able to do with those ingredients. And then the last thing that we have here, So we do have our little aloe farm that we started outside, right? But I still will patronize from time to time other farmers. So I can do so much with the aloe, and this is one of the main things that I'm using in addition to the different milks that I'm making myself, which will drive your food bill down. But these are some of the things I'm using with the plant milk bag. So I can use this definitely on my hair and my skin, and I also make sure I eat a lot of it so I do not waste the pulp, because aloe juice in the store is extremely expensive. And if you cut fresh aloe, so it can drip and it can discolor everything, so I'll wrap it with a paper towel. But if you notice, right, so there's some great distinctions with whole living foods. If you buy the aloe gel / juice inside the store, it doesn't have any taste. If you taste the fresh aloe, you notice it's very, very bitter. So over here in my world, bitters, I consider bitters a whole food group, a very important food group, an important food group when it comes to parasites, to strengthening your immune system, and also your body has a divine intelligence when you're tasting these bitters, right? Just like when you taste sugar or you taste spice, your body has a physiological response, right? And it's very, very important that we taste the food. A lot of times we want to put a whole bunch of sugar and take some very important drinks. I call them Caribbean Kool-Aid. Like if we think of the sorrel and the mabi, different drinks like that. We even have peanut punches. A lot of them are highly nutritious, but by the time so much condensed milk and sugar is added to them, I call them Caribbean Kool-Aid. But they actually have a lot of medicinal healing properties to them. And aloe is a great example. So this, the sorrel, the ginger, all of these things are things I use all the time, if not every day, in the plant milk bags. Somebody was asking me for the plant milk bags, so I do have some more. I'm going to unlock it later on the Body-Culinary Etsy shop. At some point, I'll add them on the Body-Culinary website. But I do have some more. Maybe I think I might have 10 plant milk bags. But I'm using it every day in the plant milk bag. And the beautiful thing is the material is so sturdy, unlike cheesecloth or some of the produce bags, which will allow a lot of the pulp to go through, so it feels great in your hair. However, if you get all those pieces in your hair, when it dries, it looks like dandruff, or like it can even look like snot when it's wet, or it look like dandruff flakes, right? So we want to make sure when we're using the fresh aloe that we really strain them. And so the plant milk bag has a really fine texture, which gives you really great, beautiful, smooth nut milks, right? The texture can be very key to your enjoyment, right? So you don't have big chunks of things in your mouth. Use cauliflower in your sushi wrap. Nice, nice. I love to use cauliflower in sushi. I use cauliflower for so much. But again, these are all beautifying foods. So I invite you, and not waiting for the new year. New year starts today. New year starts today. So I invite you to eat for longevity, for vitality, for beauty, and for your mood. Just receive your plant milk bag. Oh, fantastic! Yay! Please take a picture of you using your plant milk bag. I'd love to see how many things that you make. My sister would just ask, and she was like, "Did the sis get her plant milk bag?" I said, "No, I have to check." Oh, that's fantastic! Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I'd love to hear if you try the aloe. So I take every ingredient in here, and I'll do like 9 to 10 things with one ingredient. That is a principle over at Body-Culinary. So although I can make an aloe juice and an aloe gel in the Vitamix, I love to also make the aloe gel in the plant milk bag with no blending, right? So that means that I'll fillet the sides, take the spoon and scoop out the gel, place it into the nut milk bag over a stainless steel bowl, and milk the bag, right? Just milk it and squish it with your hands, right, through the bag, and the mucilage from it has some very healing properties, and you get more of that gel texture when you don't blend it and you just squeeze it through the bag. So some people might think it's a lot of work. Actually, it's not. It's a great time in preparing your food, right? That's why I call it like a whole living foods jam session. It's good quality time with yourself. I would even call it a meditation. When you let go of the resistance, maybe put on some ambient music or listen to the birds and relax and prepare your food for yourself, right? Who wants to eat food from angry people, right? That has the energy. Call me picky, but if you see people are angry, they may not be, or just not happy about the food and they're handling your food, I work as a chef, and I've worked in different kinds of restaurants. Something drops on the floor. If they're not as conscientious about the salt or whatever they're putting into the food, I'd rather have like loving energy in my food. I know exactly what's in my food, and I make it a point to make sure that my food is just as attractive. So when people start whipping out the McDonald's and going to the Caribbean restaurant, I used to be addicted to McDonald's fries. I was a junk food junkie. But when they start whipping out their stuff, I whip out my beautiful food too. And so that all of these little things that I do help keep me really satisfied. Well, I really enjoy the lifestyle because I have no intention on dieting. So let me know if you can come up with different things to do with the aloe and the garlic and the plantain and the patty pan squash.